Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in everyone's life when they feel the sting of being ignored, whether it's a friend who stops replying, a partner who drifts away, or a group that acts like you don't exist. The instinct is to chase, to ask why, to fight for attention. But today I want to tell you something different. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing that if someone ignores us, we must have done something wrong or that we're not good enough. In reality, people's actions, especially their neglect or silence, often reflect them, not you. Human beings tend to internalize rejection. We equate attention with importance, validation with worthiness. But this is a dangerous illusion. Your value is inherent. It doesn't increase when you're noticed, and it doesn't decrease when you're overlooked. You are worthy the moment you were born, before anyone knew your name, before anyone could validate or dismiss you. You don't become more valuable because someone texts you back, invites you out, or praises you in public. Those things may feel good, but they are not proof of your worth. They are simply external affirmations. And external affirmations are fleeting. What happens when you rely on others' attention to feel good about yourself? You become dependent. You give away your power constantly waiting for someone to confirm that you matter. And when they withdraw that attention, whether intentionally or by distraction, you feel hollow. But here's the truth. Real self-worth comes from within. It's quiet. It doesn't beg. It doesn't chase. And it doesn't flinch in the face of silence. Instead of asking, why don't they see me? Start asking, why do I need them to? That shift changes everything. It takes you out of a place of neediness and places you in a position of strength. You start to build an inner confidence that isn't shaken by the moods, decisions, or presence of others. So remember this. People may ignore you for 1,000 reasons that have nothing to do with your value. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they're insecure. Maybe they're emotionally unavailable. Or maybe they're just not for you, and that's okay. None of it subtracts from who you are or what you bring to the table. You are not valuable because someone sees you. You are valuable because you exist. And the sooner you understand that, the freer you become. When someone ignores you, it naturally stings. It triggers a primal fear of rejection and exclusion. But what's even more harmful than being ignored is what happens when you start chasing. That moment when you double text, over-explain, try to impress, or anxiously wait for a reply, you're no longer acting from a place of confidence. You're acting from a place of lack. And here's the subtle damage. Every time you chase someone who has chosen to overlook you, you're sending a message, not to them, but to yourself, that their validation is more important than your peace, that their attention somehow defines your worth. You reinforce a dangerous belief. I need to work to be loved. I need to earn their interest. I'm not enough as I am. This belief, repeated over time, eats away at your self-esteem. You begin to attach your value to being chosen instead of being whole on your own. It's a cycle. They ignore, you chase, they stay distant, and you try harder. The harder you try, the more your sense of self slips through your fingers. You become addicted to the crumbs of attention they may occasionally offer, mistaking it for love, care, or approval. The truth is, when someone wants to talk to you, they will. When someone values you, you won't have to chase them. You won't need to shrink yourself or keep proving your worth. Relationships, whether romantic, platonic, or professional, should never be one-sided marathons where only one person is doing all the running. It's important to realize that chasing doesn't win hearts. It doesn't create respect. It creates imbalance. And worse, it tells the other person, consciously or not, that they are the prize and you are the pursuer, desperate to be seen. That imbalance often leads to emotional manipulation, power games, or simple disinterest. And at the end of the day, you are left drained. Healthy self-esteem says, if you pull away, I won't chase. I'll notice. I'll step back too. I'll protect my energy. It doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from understanding your own value. Chasing those who ignore you is not love. It's self-abandonment. You trade your boundaries for their temporary attention. You trade your dignity for their silence. Instead, pause, Let them go. Choose yourself. You'll be surprised how freeing it feels to no longer chase those who don't see you, and how powerful it is to stand still and know your worth. We often think of communication as words, text, calls, conversations, but some of the loudest messages people send come through their silence. When someone consistently ignores you, avoids responding, or gives minimal effort, they're telling you something. It may not be in words, but it's no less clear. I don't prioritize you. That may be uncomfortable to accept, but it's an important truth to recognize. Silence isn't neutral. In relationships of any kind, romantic, platonic, professional, when communication stops, something deeper is usually happening beneath the surface. Maybe they've lost interest. Maybe they don't respect your time. Maybe they are emotionally unavailable or simply not invested. Whatever the reason, their silence has weight. It is not an empty void. It's an active choice to not respond, not engage, not show up. And yet, many people ignore these silent messages. We make excuses for them. Maybe they're just busy. Maybe they didn't see the message. Maybe I did something wrong and should fix it. We fill in the silence with stories that shift the blame to ourselves because it's easier to believe that we need to change than to accept that someone simply doesn't care enough. But here's a shift in perspective. Instead of fearing silence, listen to it. What does it reveal about their effort, about their respect for you, about their emotional capacity? Silence often says what words won't, and it rarely lies. People might be polite in person. They might say the right things when confronted, but if their silence keeps returning, that is the real story. Words are easy. Consistent presence is not. Understanding silence as communication helps you stop chasing mixed signals. It helps you step out of confusion and into clarity. You no longer need to overanalyze or beg for answers. The absence is the answer. You learn to take in action as an action. You learn to trust what people do or don't do more than what they say. And most importantly, you learn to respect your own time and emotional energy. You begin to develop the emotional maturity to let people be without forcing a connection where there is none. Instead of seeking explanations from someone who chooses not to speak, you give yourself the gift of peace by walking away. Not because you're giving up, but because you're listening and silence has already said enough. There's a quiet kind of strength in walking away, a strength many people underestimate. It's not about being cold, dramatic, or spiteful. It's about protecting your self-respect. When someone ignores you, minimizes your presence, or treats you as if you're optional, continuing to pursue them doesn't win you anything meaningful. Instead, it slowly chips away at your dignity, one unanswered message, one cold shoulder, one overlooked moment at a time. Dignity is rooted in how you treat yourself, in how you allow others to treat you, and in what you tolerate in silence. Every time you lower your standards just to keep someone around, you're not being kind or patient. You're quietly betraying yourself. You're saying your presence matters more than my self-worth. And over time, this self-betrayal becomes a habit, one that teaches people that you're willing to tolerate emotional neglect in exchange for crumbs of connection. Walking away, on the other hand, is a declaration, not to them, but to you. It says, I see what's happening. I refuse to beg. I know who I am, and I know what I deserve. It doesn't mean you're not hurt. It doesn't mean you no longer care. It simply means you're choosing your own peace and value over someone else's inconsistent effort. And here's the truth many people don't realize. You don't always need closure, explanations, or permission to leave. You don't need to send a final message. You don't need to prove your worth to them before you exit. Your silence, your absence, and your decision to no longer show up where you're being dismissed, that is your closure. That is how you protect your dignity. Think about it this way. If someone dropped something valuable, a ring, a watch, a treasured possession, they would rush to pick it up. They wouldn't leave it behind. When someone doesn't rush to keep you in their life, it's not because you lack value. It's because they don't recognize it. and it's not your job to convince them. It's your job to remove yourself from spaces that can't hold what you bring. Preserving your dignity also means refusing to play games. It means not trying to manipulate someone into noticing you. It means not overcompensating with attention, not shrinking yourself to seem more likable, and not constantly giving them the benefit of the doubt when their behavior consistently shows disinterest or disregard. You preserve your dignity by setting the silent boundary of no longer showing up for those who can't or won't show up for you. In the end, dignity isn't loud. It doesn't need to announce itself. It simply exits quietly, gracefully, and with unwavering self-respect. One of the most exhausting things you can do, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, is to pour your energy into people who won't pour back. Chasing those who ignore you becomes an emotional black hole. You invest your thoughts, your time, your emotions, and your hope into something that gives you nothing in return. And eventually you're left depleted, wondering what else you could have done, what you should have said, and why it still wasn't enough. But here's the hard truth. It's not about being enough. It's about where your energy is going and whether it's being respected. You only have so much mental and emotional capacity in a day. If you're using it to overthink someone's silence, refresh your phone waiting for a reply, analyze every message for hidden meaning, or rehearse imaginary conversations, that's precious energy being spent and wasted on someone who isn't even showing up. Now, imagine if that energy was redirected. Imagine taking all of that emotional bandwidth and investing it in you, into your growth, into your goals, into healing, into becoming more self-aware, more fulfilled, and more confident. Every ounce of attention you're giving to someone who's ignoring you could be used to build something beautiful. A skill, a business, a stronger body, a deeper friendship, a healthier mindset. Growth happens when you turn inward, not outward. When you stop trying to fix others and start understanding yourself. When you stop seeking validation and start creating value in your own life. The truth is, we often chase others to distract ourselves from the work we don't want to do within. It feels easier to fix a broken relationship than it does to confront our own insecurities, our own wounds, and the parts of ourselves that need attention. But here's what's incredible. When you stop chasing and start growing, something shifts. You stop settling for surface level connections because you've developed depth. You become more selective, not because you're arrogant, but because you've tasted peace and you won't trade it for chaos. You begin to attract people and opportunities that reflect the value you've built within yourself. And growth doesn't always mean major life changes. It can be as simple as showing up for yourself every day, choosing rest over ruminating, choosing peace over proving your worth, choosing books over begging, choosing boundaries over burnout. These small shifts add up. And before you know it, the version of you who once begged for attention becomes someone who commands respect without ever having to ask. The time you waste trying to convince someone to care is time stolen from the life you're meant to build. Protect your energy, guard it like your future depends on it, because it does. One of the most powerful realizations you can come to in life is this: the right people, the ones who truly value you, won't require you to chase them. You won't have to convince them of your worth, beg for their time, or compete for their attention. When someone sees you clearly, when they genuinely care, showing up for you is not an inconvenience. It's natural, it's consistent, it's mutual. We live in a time where emotional unavailability is often romanticized as mystery, and where inconsistent behavior is mistaken for complexity or depth. But love, whether it's romantic, platonic, or familial, isn't meant to be confusing. It's not a puzzle to solve or a prize to earn. It should bring peace, not anxiety. Clarity, not chaos. The people who are right for you will not make you question your place in their life. They won't disappear for days and then come back only when it suits them. They won't withhold affection as a form of control. They won't use silence as punishment or inconsistency as leverage. Instead, they will communicate. They will care. They will reciprocate. It's important to understand this because when you chase people, you often do so out of the fear that you'll never find anyone better. But that fear is rooted in scarcity, and it's not true. There are people in the world who are emotionally mature, kind, and capable of giving the same effort you give. People who will match your energy, who will call you just because they want to hear your voice, who will check in, show up, and stay. Not because you chase them down, but because they want to. But you shouldn't have to perform emotional gymnastics just to keep someone around. You shouldn't have to constantly prove that you're worthy of love, friendship, or attention. The right people will already see it. They'll notice the way you love, the way you care, your loyalty, your kindness, your presence, and they'll honor that without needing reminders. It's not about being perfect. It's about being seen. The right people will see your flaws and still stay. They'll understand your silence and still reach out. They'll respect your boundaries and won't punish you for having them. With them, there's no game, just mutual effort, mutual respect, and mutual growth. So instead of trying harder to be chosen by those who overlook you, make space for the ones who will meet you halfway without being asked. The right people won't drain you. They'll pour into you. They'll match your frequency. They'll give without keeping score. Closure is something we all crave when a connection fades or a relationship ends, especially when it ends in silence. We want explanations, apologies, clarity, and understanding. We want to know why someone changed, why they pulled away, why they stopped showing up, or why we weren't enough for them to stay. But the truth is, closure isn't always something others give us. Sometimes it's something we must create for ourselves. And one of the most powerful forms of closure is accepting their absence as the answer. When someone ignores you, when they leave without a word, when they disappear instead of communicating, they are speaking through their silence. It might not be the explanation you wanted, but it is an explanation. Their absence says, this is the level of respect, effort, and care I'm willing to offer. That may be hard to hear, but it's also all the information you need to move forward. Waiting around for someone to explain why they've neglected you only prolongs your pain. It keeps you tethered to an illusion. The hope that maybe they'll come back with a satisfying reason that makes it all make sense. But often that moment never comes. And even if it does, it rarely brings the peace we thought it would. Because peace doesn't come from someone else's words. It comes from choosing to stop seeking them. Letting absence be your closure means refusing to chase down explanations from people who have already shown you they're unwilling to provide emotional clarity. It means recognizing that someone's inability or unwillingness to communicate is not your fault to fix. You do not need their permission to move on. You do not need their words to find your healing. And there's power in that. There's power in saying, you left, you ignored me. And instead of chasing, I'm accepting. Not because you're weak or don't care, but because you care enough about yourself to not stay stuck in emotional limbo. Acceptance is not giving up. It's refusing to let unanswered questions hold your growth hostage. It's also a form of emotional maturity. It takes strength to let someone go without getting everything you wanted to say off your chest. It takes courage to walk away without slamming the door or waiting by it. It's an act of self-respect to say, this person has chosen distance. I will not beg for closeness. Sometimes we think closure means having the last conversation, the final goodbye, the neat conclusion. But real closure often looks like a quiet decision to no longer wait, no longer wonder, and no longer water what's already withered. It's found in your ability to move forward, even when the ending was messy, incomplete, or silent. Letting absence be your closure doesn't mean you weren't hurt. It means you decided to stop reopening the wound every time someone refused to help you heal it. There's a kind of quiet devastation that comes with being overlooked. When you give your energy, your heart, your presence, and still feel invisible. It can make you question your worth, your abilities, your voice. But here's where the real shift begins. Instead of letting that pain break you, let it build you. Let it become the fuel for your transformation. Because while being overlooked can be deeply painful, it can also be one of the most powerful powerful catalysts for growth. Growth doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't chase or beg. It silently rises. And in the face of rejection or dismissal, choosing growth is the most dignified, empowering response you can offer. It says, "You may not have seen me, but I see myself." That's not just resilience. That's revolution. When someone overlooks you, they're often making a statement about their own limited vision, not your potential. Maybe they weren't capable of recognizing your depth. Maybe they couldn't see your value because they weren't operating from a place of clarity or maturity. But that doesn't mean you dim your light. You don't shrink to fit their field of view. Instead, you expand, you rise, you develop. Instead of proving yourself to them, you prove something to yourself. That you are capable of evolving, of healing, of creating, of becoming someone even stronger than before. Growth is your quiet rebellion. It's how you reclaim your story without needing applause or permission. You learn, you build, you redirect your energy from trying to be seen by them to building a version of you that you're proud to see. This kind of growth is not just surface level improvement. It's not about becoming successful out of spite. It's not a performative, watch me now attitude. It's deeper than that. It's about emotional evolution, healing your wounds, cultivating self-awareness, strengthening your mindset, setting boundaries, and choosing yourself not out of bitterness, but out of wholeness. You grow by pouring into what you once neglected, your dreams, your passions, your health, your peace. You learn that the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's becoming someone who no longer needs validation from those who couldn't see you in the first place. Because once you've built yourself from the inside out, once you've invested in your soul, your skills, your self-respect, no one's oversight can truly touch you. You're not seeking to be chosen anymore. You've already chosen yourself. And perhaps the most powerful part of this transformation is that in time, you'll look back and realize being overlooked wasn't the end. It was the beginning. It was the moment life redirected you inward, where all real growth begins. It wasn't a rejection. It was a redirection toward becoming your most grounded, powerful, and fulfilled self. When they ignore you, don't chase. Instead, use that moment as a mirror, a chance to reflect on your own worth, your potential, and the strength that lies in choosing yourself. Every time you resist the urge to chase after someone's fleeting attention, you're sending a message not just to them, but to your own heart. I am enough. I am valuable. I do not need to beg for a place in anyone's life. Remember, your value is not defined by others' ability to see it. And the right people will show up when you least expect it. Because they'll see you for who you truly are, without games, without masks. In the meantime, invest in the most important relationship you'll ever have, the one with yourself. Let your growth be the greatest response to being overlooked. Let your peace be your power, and let your self-love guide you forward. Choose to rise, choose to grow, and choose to walk away from anyone who doesn't see you as the treasure you are. Because in the end, the best validation comes from within, and no one can take that from you. You are enough, always. Keep moving forward, not in pursuit of approval, but in pursuit